Okay, I wanted to make you all a quick video about interval notation. I know that everybody's used inequality notation a bunch and graphed using that inequality notation. And I know most of you have seen interval notation, but I want to do a quick refresher if you've already seen it, or a quick how-to if you're new to it. It's not really very difficult. It's just a few things to remember. I'm going to also attach a video where I talk a little more in depth about interval notation if you're still struggling. Only watch that one if you feel like you need to. It was a video that I made for a student that was struggling about a year or two ago. So but it's a good video to talk more about interval notation if you're having some issues. I'm going to do some examples here. I think this will be enough. So here are some things that we need to know. So we know if we have just greater than or less than, we have an open circle on a number line. And if we have greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, that's a closed circle on a number line. If we have an open circle on a number line, then it's a parenthesis. If we have a closed circle on a number line, then we use a bracket. So if we have if something goes to infinity, so if there's an arrow showing that it keeps on going, then we always use parentheses with infinity and negative infinity. Those are kind of the real things you need to know. Down here, if you look at the bottom, the last four, you'll see that U symbol. So that happens when we have an OR type of situation where we have two separate graphs that come together. So if you remember the AND graphs, you bring down what they share. The OR graphs, you bring down everything. This page summarizes a lot of what I just said on the previous page about if we have less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, then we have brackets. And if we have less than and greater than, we have parentheses. And if we have infinity, either negative or positive infinity, then we always use the parentheses, or they're calling them round brackets and square brackets. So it also talks about set builder notation, which you've seen before. So X such that, X is an element of, that means real numbers, and X is greater than 3. We're not going to worry about for our worksheets interval or set builder notation. We're just going to write the inequality. So on all the ones that ask me for set builder notation, I'm just going to write the inequality. So I'll change that when I get there. So the first examples here ask us to graph on the number line and then write the interval notation. That's very similar to what you have on your worksheet. So if we graph on the number line, I'm not really picky, and it gives you a very simple number line on your worksheet. All I need is the number that you use. And this says X is greater than 2, so we know that's an open circle, shaded to the right. So for our interval notation, and I always use my graph to write my interval notation, so that's why I'm starting here. We have a parenthesis at 2, and it keeps on going forever to positive infinity, so 2 to infinity. Both of those are parentheses because we had an open circle at the 2. That gave us the parenthesis before the 2, and in infinity at the end, it always has parentheses, so that gives us the parenthesis after infinity. Okay. If we look at this next one, X is greater than or equal to 2. So here's 2. Greater than or equal to means we have a closed circle, still going to the right. Remember, if you put your X first, the inequality points to the direction the arrow should be shaded. Again, that's infinity. So if we're reading left to right, that's always how we read interval notation from the number line. We start at 2. It's a bracket this time because of the closed circle. And then infinity, and infinity has a parenthesis because infinity always has parentheses. Okay, if we look at the next ones, we have 5 is our number we're looking at. And X is less than 5, so that's an open circle. To the left, this time, this is negative infinity. So a number line always goes from negative infinity to positive infinity. So we always start from left to right. So we're starting at negative infinity. That is a parenthesis because infinity and negative infinity always have parentheses. And we're going until we get to 5. Since 5 has an open circle, we know it also has a parenthesis. Again, we're using 5. This time it's less than or equal to, so we know we have a closed circle there. It's still shaded to the left. I went a little too far. So, still starting at negative infinity over here. And going until we get to 5. And that one has a bracket, a square bracket, because it has a closed circle. For the first one of these next 5, I'm going to refresh your memory on how we would have done this in like Algebra 1. So we would have written 2 is less than or equal, no, 2 is just less than x. Less than x is less than 5. So we would have written that as, we would have broken it up as 2 is less than x and x is less than 5. And then we would have written that, we would have gotten our x in front for both of them. So x is greater than 2 and x is less than 5. Hopefully you remember less than and great or. We'll need that later. But that's why we have what we have here. Now, on that number line, we would have, so we need a 2 and a 5. And so we have an open circle at 2, shaded to the right. An open circle at 5, shaded to the left. Remember, with ands, we only bring down what we share, so we'd have an open circle from 2 to 5. You are probably to the point, if it's written like this in inequality notation, you can jump to just that bottom part and not have to rewrite that, but that's how you would have been taught in Algebra 1. So I'm not going to redraw that over here. We know what that number line looks like now. And so we have an open circle at 2, so that's a parenthesis, and that's our starting point. An open circle at 5, that's a parenthesis, so that's our ending point. Because they're both open circles, they both had parentheses. So it doesn't have to have infinity in it. Oftentimes we see infinity in these, but it doesn't have to. I will go ahead and draw the other graphs over here. I'm not going to show the separate things. Like if it says 2 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 5, that means your graph starts at 2 and it ends at 5. So we have 2 and 5 on the number line. And so we have a closed circle at the 2 because the 2 is less than or equal to x. A closed circle at the 5 because the 5 is, because x is less than or equal to 5. And then we shade what's in between. So this time we would have bracket 2, comma, 5, bracket, because they're both closed circles. It doesn't have to be the same. We'll see on these last two. One of them can be open, one of them can be closed. So same number line, same numbers. This time it says 2 is less than x, so that's an open circle at 2. And x is less than or equal to 5, so there's a closed circle there. We connect them. So we have the open circle gives us a parenthesis. And so we have a parenthesis 2. It stops when we get to 5, and that has a bracket because it has a closed circle. This last one is the same except for the one open, one closed, except where the open and closed is changes. So we have 2 and 5 again. So we have a closed circle at 2, an open circle at 5, and we're shading in between. So now this time we have a bracket at 2, and 5 has a parenthesis. So I got some examples. If you think you're good, you may be able to stop right here. You might want to look at the example on 3, and then I have one on the next page that will help you with another question on your worksheet. So we want to write 1 through 4 in interval notation. So I really like to, especially for some of them, graph them first. And so we're going from, so it says x is less than or equal to -4, or x is greater than or equal to 6. So we have a closed circle at -4, and we're shading to the right. A closed circle at 6, and we're shading to the left. So we go from -infinity to -4. Negative infinity has a parenthesis because positive and negative infinity always have a parenthesis. -4 has a bracket because it has a closed circle. We put a U since there's more than one interval. 6 has a bracket because it has a closed circle, comma, infinity. So this is number 1, the answer for number 1. Since we've done several of these already up here, I'm just going to write this one out. So this would be -5, comma, 7. They both had open circles, so they both have parentheses. That looks kind of like an ordered pair that we've seen before, but in this context, it's an interval notation. The next one is all real numbers. This is one that I really wanted to do. If we have a graph for all real numbers, then it would like shade everything. It would be shading the whole number line, okay? And so all real numbers would go from -infinity to infinity. I think you have one like that on your worksheet. Okay. The last one here, I think we've done several like that. So we would have x is greater than -5, means we start at -5. It's a parenthesis because it's just greater than, so there's an open circle. And then we go to infinity because it keeps on going. So you're going to see some like that on your worksheet. I've slid up just a little bit to talk about the other type. We are going to be given interval notation, and it wants you to express it in set builder, but I'm going to mark that out. We're not going to do set builder. We're going to do inequality. Set builder's fine. If you do set builder, go for it. Inequalities is also just fine. You do not have to draw a graph to do these, I think, on your worksheet either. You can. Sometimes that helps people. I'm going to draw a graph for the first one here and just kind of talk about the others. So you have, it's at 4. The bracket tells you there's a closed circle there. And it goes from -infinity to 4, so it's shaded here over here from -infinity, and it stops shading when you get to 4. So we would write that as x is less than or equal to 4. Sometimes the graph helps. If the graph helps, great. If not, that's no problem. So over here on number 6, for the first part, we have x is less than or equal to -3. We have a less than or equal to because of that bracket. That's why we have the less than or equal to here. And then or x is greater than 4. So the 4 has a parenthesis, so that's why we just have a greater than, no equal to. Let me kind of do 7 down here because I've run out of space. So this is one of those that has a start and a stop, so we know it looks like this format. So we have 2 is less than or equal to x is less than 6. So the less than or equal to because of the bracket before the 2, the less than because of the parenthesis at the 6. Number 8 is another one of those that starts and stops. So we have 5 is less than x is less than 8 because it goes from 5 to 8, and they're both parentheses, so there's no equal to. The final thing, just a few more practice ones, looking at just a number line and writing interval notation. So this would be -3 to 5, parenthesis for the open circle at -3, bracket for the closed circle at 5. This would be -infinity to -5. This would be -infinity to -3. U, 0 to infinity. all parentheses because we had open circles, and infinity always has open circles. And this would be negative infinity to negative 4, u, 4 to infinity. My 4 doesn't look great there. And this one is all real numbers, so we would write that as negative infinity to infinity. If you were asked for that in like an inequality, you're not really going to give an inequality. You're going to put that r like that. And this one, number 6, is negative infinity to 2, u, 2 to infinity. And that means it's everything but 2. And in inequality notation, you would see that as x is not equal to 2. So both of these last two, 5 and 6, you do have some of those on your worksheet, so they're nice to look at. If you have any questions, you can email me.